So, hello again guys. It's me again, Frederick Katigbak. So, for now I create a chapter tutorial of the chapter 5. So, let's go. So, this chapter tutorial is titled Chapter 5 Ethernet. So, for the instructor materials, so there's the 5.1 Internet Protocol, and it explains the operation of the Internet, explain how the Ethernet sublayers are related to the frame fields, describe the Ethernet MAC address. There's the 5.2 LAN switches, so explain how a switch operates, explain how a switch builds in its MAC address table and forward frames, describe switch forwarding methods and port settings available on layer 2 switch ports. So there's the 5.3 address solution protocol, and it is explained how the address resolution protocols enables communication on a network. Compare the roles of the MAC address and the IP address. Describe the purpose of the ARP. Explain how the ARP requests impact network and the most performance. So first is the Internet Protocol. So Ethernet Protocol. So there's the Ethernet encapsulation. So the Ethernet is the most widely used LAN technology today. Ethernet operates in the data link layer and the physical layer. Ethernet relies on the two separate sublayers of the link layer to operate the logical link control or LLC and the MAC sublayer. So the Ethernet encapsulation. So the Ethernet LLC sublayer handles the communication between the upper layers and the lower layers. It is the implement software, and its implementation it independent of the hardware. So the MAC sublayer constitute the lower sublayer of the data link layer. The MAC is implemented by hardware, typically in the computer NIC. So the MAC sublayer has two primary responsibilities. So the data encapsulation and the media access control. So the data encapsulation primary function. So there's the frame delimiting in the addressing and error detection. So the Ethernet evolution. So since the 1973, Ethernet standards have evolved, specifying faster and more flexible version of the technology. Early versions of the Ethernet were relatively slow at 10 Mbps. So the latest of the Ethernet operate the 10 gigabytes per second and faster. So so let's go. 5.2 LAN switches. So there's the switch fundamentals. So A switch that is powered on will have a empty MAC address table as it has not yet learned the MAC addresses for the 4 attached PC. Note, the MAC address is the table sometimes referred to as content addressable memory. Learning MAC addresses. So the switch is dynamically builds the MAC address table. The process to learn the source MAC address is switches examine all incoming frames for new source MAC address information to learn. If the source MAC address is unknown, it is added to the table along with the port number. If the source MAC address does exist, the switch updates the refresh timer for the entry. By default, the most Ethernet keep an entry in table 5 minutes. So filtering frames. So when the switch MAC address table contains the destination MAC address, it is able to filter the frame and toward out a single port. Duplex and speed settings. So there are two types of duplex settings used for communication on an Ethernet network. So first is the full duplex. So it is both and connection can send and receive simultaneously. The second is the half duplex. So it is the only one end of the connection can send at a time. So duplex mismatch is a common cause of performance issues in Ethernet links. It occurs when one port on the link operates at half duplex while the other port operates the full duplex. So let's go to the 5.3 address resolution protocol. So the destination of the same protocol, there are two types of primary addresses assigned to a device on an Ethernet LAN. So first is the physical address, the address MAC address. Second is the logical address or the IP address. As example, PCA sends an IP packet file to a server on the same network. So the layer 2 Ethernet frames contain. So the first is the destination MAC address. So source MAC address. So the layer 3P IP packet contains source IP address, destination IP address. So for the ARP spoofing, ARP broadcast. So the ARP broadcast as a broadcast frame, an ARP request is received and processed by every device on the local network. ARP requests can flood the local segment if a large number of devices were to be powered and all accessing network services at the same time. So ARP spoofing, attackers can respond to requests and pretend to be providers of service. One type of ARP spoofing attack used by attackers is to reply to an ARP request for the default gateway. In the figure, a host requests the MAC address of the default gateway. Host C replies the ARP request. So host A receives the reply and updates its ARP table. It now sends as the packet destined the default gateway of the attacker host. So it is enterprise. The level of switches include the mitigation techniques known as the dynamic ARP inspection or DAI. So that's all for now. So this is the chapter tutorial of the of the chapter 5. So don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.